All right, get ready because today we're going deep into Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to break down this YouTube lecture called Introduction to Bitcoin and Blockchain with Python.
Okay.
And don't worry, we're not turning this into a coding class. It's
Uh,
more like we're exploring
Really?
I guess you could say like the physics of Bitcoin, like
Yeah.
the core cryptographic principles that make it all work.
Yeah.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll be
Yeah.
able to explain things like
Okay.
how Bitcoin wallets work,
Sure.
how transactions actually happen,
Yeah.
and
Right.
why this whole system is
Right.
considered secure and scarce.
It's always fascinating to kind of peel back the layers and see how things work,
Absolutely.
especially with something as revolutionary as Bitcoin.
The lecture jumps right into something called
Oh.
elliptic curve cryptography.
Yeah.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin relies on a specific elliptic curve. And you can think of this curve as basically like the rule book
Yeah.
for this whole financial system.
What's fascinating to me is that we're not talking about just like everyday math here.
Right.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
Bitcoin uses these specific geometric operations
Oh, wow.
that are defined on this curve.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new mathematical language.
Yeah, the professor even says
Right.
that Bitcoin is really an elliptic curve
Yeah.
governed by the laws of physics of the curve.
Yeah.
So how do these curves actually play out
Right.
in creating a Bitcoin wallet?
It all starts with those all-important
Okay.
private and public keys.
Right.
Think of them like the digital keys
Okay.
to your Bitcoin kingdom.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the way that they're generated,
Uh-huh.
it's surprisingly elegant.
Okay, walk me through it.
Okay.
What's the first step?
It all begins with a password,
Okay.
but not just any password.
Right.
The lecture suggests something super secure,
Okay.
like a string of 20 random words.
Oh, yeah.
This is serious business.
Yeah.
Because this password is the only way to generate your private key.
So lose the password, lose your Bitcoin.
You got it.
Got it.
Yeah.
What happens next?
That password is used to create a random number,
Okay.
which becomes your secret key,
Okay.
so to speak, your golden ticket.
Gotcha.
Now, this key,
Yeah.
combined with a specific starting point on the elliptic curve,
Okay.
called the generator point,
Okay.
is used to calculate your public key.
So it's like a treasure map.
It
For
is.
the generator point is the starting point,
Uh-huh.
and the secret key tells you how to get to the treasure,
Yeah,
which is the public key.
that's a great analogy.
Okay.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Your public key
Yeah.
isn't directly your Bitcoin address.
Yeah, okay.
It actually goes through this double hashing process
Like
using SHA-256 and RIPE-EMD-160.
double hashing.
Yeah.
Why not just hash it once?
Well, it adds an extra layer of security
Okay.
and condenses that public key
Okay.
into a more manageable Bitcoin address.
Okay.
Plus,
Yeah.
Bitcoin uses this unique encoding system
Okay.
that avoids characters that look alike.
Right.
So things like the letter O
Okay.
or 0,
Yeah, you could mix those up.
easy to mix up, right?
Yeah.
So this encoding prevents those kinds of costly errors.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
So let me make sure I have this straight.
Okay.
I start with a super secret password that
Yeah.
generates my private key.
Uh-huh.
Then that private key, combined with the elliptic curve's generator point,
Yes.
produces my public key.
Correct.
And then finally, that public key is double hashed
Right.
and encoded to create my Bitcoin address.
Yes.
And this whole process
Yeah.
is governed by the unique mathematics of the elliptic curve.
Right.
So it's kind of like the laws of physics for
Yeah.
this digital financial universe.
You got it.
Okay.
It's a pretty elegant system when you think
Yeah.
about it. And it all leads to the creation of your Bitcoin wallet,
Okay.
which is where you'll store
Right.
your precious Bitcoin.
So we've got our wallets all set up.
Right.
But how do we actually move Bitcoin around?
Well, that's where transactions come in.
Oh.
In essence, a Bitcoin transaction
Yeah.
is simply an instruction to move Bitcoin
Okay.
from one wallet to another.
So
It's like saying,
okay.
hey, take this Bitcoin from my wallet
Right.
and put it in that wallet over there.
Simple enough.
Right.
But the lecture mentions something about
Yeah.
these transactions having their own special language.
Yeah, it's not exactly Shakespeare,
Okay.
but it is a specific set of commands,
Okay.
all encoded in hexadecimal format.
Hexadecimal format.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit intimidating.
It might sound complex,
Yeah.
but it's really just a way of representing numbers,
Okay.
using a combination of letters and numbers.
Okay.
It's very efficient for computers to understand,
So it's like their native tongue.
kind of like their native tongue, yeah.
Okay, so it's all about streamlining communication within the network.
Exactly.
But how do we make sure that these transactions are secure?
Right.
How do we know that someone isn't sending fake messages and stealing Bitcoin?
That's where digital signatures come in.
Okay.
And they play a crucial role in ensuring the integrity
Okay.
of every transaction.
Okay.
So each transaction has to be signed
Okay.
using your private key,
Okay.
which acts as your unique, unforgeable signature.
So it's like signing a legal document.
Exactly.
You're using your private key
Uh-huh.
to prove
Right.
that you authorize that transaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the best part is
Yeah.
the Bitcoin network can verify this signature
Uh-huh.
using your public key,
Okay.
which is publicly available.
Gotcha.
So it's a brilliant system
Yeah.
that ensures only the rightful owner of the Bitcoin
Right.
can authorize its movement.
Okay. So we've got these transactions
Yeah.
coded in hexadecimal, signed with our private keys.
Right.
But where do they actually go? How are they processed?
This is where the blockchain comes in.
Okay. This is where the blockchain comes in.
You got it.
Okay.
The blockchain is essentially a public ledger
Right.
that records every Bitcoin transaction
Okay.
ever made.
Wow.
And maintaining this ledger,
Yeah.
that's the job of the miners.
Miners.
Those are the folks with all the powerful computers.
Right. What exactly are they doing?
Think of them as the accountants
Okay.
of the Bitcoin world.
Okay.
They're constantly competing
Okay.
to add new blocks of transactions
Okay.
to the blockchain.
Competing. So it's like a race.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
They're solving incredibly complex
Yeah.
mathematical problems
Yeah.
to create these blocks,
Okay.
which ensures the security and integrity of the blockchain.
Okay.
It's called proof of work,
Proof of work.
and it's a core part of what makes Bitcoin so secure.
Okay. This proof of work sounds pretty intense.
It is.
What motivates these miners?
Well, the miner who successfully adds a block
Yeah.
to the blockchain
Yeah.
gets rewarded
Okay.
with newly minted Bitcoin.
Oh, so that's how new Bitcoin enters circulation.
That's how new Bitcoin enters circulation.
Ah, so it's a self-sustaining system.
Exactly.
Miners are incentivized to secure the network,
Right.
and in doing so, they get rewarded with Bitcoin.
Yep.
Pretty clever.
Pretty clever system.
But hold on.
Yeah.
The professor mentioned that there's a limit
Yes.
to how much Bitcoin can ever exist.
There is.
Didn't he say something like 21 million?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
The built-in scarcity is a key part of Bitcoin's appeal.
Yeah.
It's like digital gold,
Right.
a finite supply that, in theory, should protect its value over time.
So it's not just about the technology.
It's not just about the tech.
It's about economics, too.
It's about economics.
Supply and demand playing out in this new digital world.
Exactly.
This is getting really interesting.
It certainly is.
Before we move on to the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
What's standing out to you so far?
Well, I think what's so fascinating is how Bitcoin manages to be incredibly complex, yet somehow intuitive at the same time.
I know.
We've got this intricate dance of elliptic curves,
It's crazy.
digital signatures, miners,
Yeah.
this ever-growing blockchain.
Yeah.
But it all comes together to create this surprisingly elegant system.
And you know what else is fascinating to me?
What's that?
The fact that Bitcoin is decentralized.
Right?
There's no central authority, no bank controlling the show.
That's right.
What does that even mean for the future of finance?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that we'll definitely be exploring
Okay.
in the next part of our deep dive.
All
Stay
right.
tuned, folks,
Okay.
because things are about to get even more interesting.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back.
Yeah.
So last time we left off talking about how Bitcoin is decentralized.
Right.
With no central authority controlling things.
It's a pretty radical idea when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that rabbit hole,
Sure.
let's get back to the nuts and bolts of Bitcoin transactions.
Right.
We touched on how they have their own language,
Right,
but
yeah.
I'm still a little fuzzy on how it all works.
Well, remember how we talked about those transactions
Yeah.
being encoded in hexadecimal?
Uh-huh.
It's all about creating a clear set of instructions
Okay.
that the Bitcoin network can understand.
Okay, like a set of commands.
Exactly.
But what exactly are these commands telling the network to do?
So imagine you want to send some Bitcoin to a friend.
Okay.
The transaction needs to specify
Okay.
where that Bitcoin is coming from,
Okay.
which is your wallet,
Right.
and where it's going,
Okay.
your friend's wallet.
Okay.
And here's the interesting part.
Okay.
You have to account for all of your Bitcoin,
Wait, what?
each transaction.
Account for all of it.
Yeah.
Can't I just send the amount I want?
No.
and leave the rest in my wallet.
You can't just send a portion
Okay.
of the Bitcoin associated with a particular transaction
Okay.
and leave the rest hanging.
Okay.
Think of it like spending a dollar bill.
Okay.
You can't just rip it in half
Right.
and expect someone to accept it.
Right.
You have to use the whole thing.
So if I want to send, say, 500 Satoshis to my friend,
Okay.
but I have 1,000 Satoshis
Yeah.
associated with a particular transaction,
Right.
I have to send the entire 1,000.
Exactly.
But I can split that 1,000 up.
You got it.
So 500 goes to my friend,
Right.
and the remaining 500
Right.
goes back to an address I control.
Exactly.
Kind of like getting change back.
Exactly like getting change back.
Okay, so it's not just sending money.
It's not just about sending money.
It's like splitting it up.
It's about splitting it up
And making sure every Satoshi is accounted for.
and making sure every Satoshi is accounted for.
That seems like a pretty important detail.
It is.
But why is it designed this way?
It all comes down to how Bitcoin transactions are structured.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about moving money from A to B.
Right.
It's about tracking the flow of Bitcoin
Okay.
across the entire network.
Okay.
And this all-in approach
Right.
is a fundamental part of that.
Okay, I'm starting to see the logic here.
Good.
But how does this all connect to the concept of UTXOs
Excellent question.
that the lecture mentioned?
UTXO stands for unspent transaction output.
How? Okay.
Think of it like
Yeah.
a specific piece of Bitcoin
Okay.
with a unique history.
So each UTXO is like a digital coin with a serial number.
Precisely.
And that number is tied to a specific transaction.
That's right.
Okay.
And when you want to send Bitcoin,
Yeah.
you're essentially selecting specific UTXOs from your wallet
Okay.
and creating new UTXOs
Okay.
that represent the amounts you're sending and receiving as change.
So it's not just about sending Bitcoin.
It's not just about sending
It's
Bitcoin.
about managing these UTXOs
It is about managing these UTXOs.
and their unique histories.
Yes,
It's like piecing together a complex puzzle.
it is a little bit like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good.
So we've got these transactions
Yes.
encoded in hexadecimal,
Uh-huh.
accounting for every Satoshi
Right.
and managing these UTXOs.
Right.
But how are these transactions actually added to the blockchain?
Right.
We talked about miners,
Yeah.
but I'm still a bit unclear
Okay.
on the specifics of how they do their thing.
It all comes down to this concept called proof of work.
Okay.
Remember, miners are competing to solve
Right.
complex mathematical problems.
Yeah.
And the first one to find the solution
Yeah.
gets to add the next block of transactions
Okay.
to the blockchain.
Right, like a digital treasure hunt
Exactly.
where the prize
Yes.
is adding a block to the chain
Yes.
and getting those Bitcoin rewards.
And getting those Bitcoin rewards. That's right.
But what are they actually solving?
Think of it like this.
Okay.
Each block has a header.
Okay.
That summarizes all the transactions within that block.
Okay.
Miners take this header
Yeah.
and combine it with a random number
Okay.
called a nonce.
Bonds. Okay.
They then run this combination
Yeah.
through a hashing algorithm.
Hashing again.
There it is again.
It seems like hashing is the secret sauce of Bitcoin.
It's everywhere.
What's so special about it in this context?
So the hashing algorithm
Okay.
produces a unique output
Okay.
based on the input data.
Okay.
And in Bitcoin mining,
Yeah.
the goal is to find a nonce
Okay.
that, when combined with the block header,
Yeah.
produces a hash that meets specific criteria
Okay.
set by the Bitcoin protocol.
So it's like trying to guess a secret code.
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
And the only way to find it is to just keep trying different combinations.
Exactly.
Until you hit the jackpot.
And to you, the jackpot.
Okay.
Because these hashing algorithms
Yeah.
are designed to be one-way functions,
Okay.
it's virtually impossible to reverse engineer the process.
Wow.
So miners have to brute force it,
Yeah.
trying trillions of nonces per second
Wow.
until they find the right one.
That's a lot of computing power.
It is a lot of computing power.
And the first miner to find the solution
Yes.
gets to add the block to the blockchain
That's right.
and claim their reward.
And claim their reward.
It's a pretty ingenious system when you think about it.
It is.
And it's this decentralized competition
Correct.
among miners
Uh-huh.
that helps secure the Bitcoin network.
Exactly.
Because finding a valid hash is so difficult.
It's very difficult.
It makes it really challenging
Right.
for any single entity
Right.
to manipulate the blockchain.
To manipulate the blockchain. That's right.
So it's like a massive distributed security force,
Yeah. You could think of it that way.
all incentivized to keep the network running smoothly.
Exactly.
It's this combination of cryptography,
Yeah.
economics,
Right.
and game theory. That makes Bitcoin so unique and potentially disruptive.
It really is a fascinating combination of different fields.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
You've got the transactions with their unique language,
Right.
the UTXOs being managed, the miners competing to solve these complex puzzles, and this ever-growing blockchain that records it all.
It's quite the system.
It's like a symphony of technology and innovation.
I like that.
And, what else is amazing to me?
What is it?
Is that this is all decentralized.
It is.
There's no central authority calling the shots.
No one's in charge.
So what are your initial thoughts on this decentralized system?
Well, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
We've created a self-governing financial system operating outside the traditional structures of banks and governments.
We're a radical concept.
It is a radical concept.
And one that raises many questions.
Many questions.
About the future of money and power. Let's save that discussion for the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've explored how Bitcoin works.
Right.
Wallets, transactions, the blockchain.
A whole 9 yards.
But let's get real.
Yeah.
How do we actually use this stuff in the real world?
Right.
Can I, buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin?
You actually might be able to.
Really?
More and more businesses are starting to accept Bitcoin directly.
So I could just pay with Bitcoin?
Yeah. You'd be surprised
Wow.
at the range of places where you can spend it these days.
Okay.
Everything from online retailers to brick and mortar stores.
Wow. So Bitcoin is slowly making its way into everyday life.
Yeah.
What happens if my favorite local shops haven't quite caught on yet?
Right.
Am I just stuck?
Not at all.
Okay.
That's where cryptocurrency exchanges come in.
Okay.
They're like bridges between the Bitcoin world
Okay.
and traditional finance.
Okay.
So you can exchange your Bitcoin for US dollars, euros,
Right.
or other currencies.
So it's kind of like exchanging currency when you travel abroad.
Exactly.
You're converting your Bitcoin
Right.
into the local currency
Okay.
of the spending world.
You got it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do these exchanges actually work?
Well,
And are they safe to use?
it's important to do your research
Okay.
and choose a reputable exchange
Right.
with a good track record of security.
Okay.
There have been cases of hacks and scams.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about that.
So you need to be cautious.
Okay.
Just like you wouldn't put your money in just any bank.
Right.
You want to choose an exchange that you can trust.
So it's all about doing your due diligence.
Exactly.
Security is paramount
Absolutely.
when you're dealing with your hard-earned money,
Right.
whether it's Bitcoin or traditional currency.
Doesn't matter.
And just like with traditional investments,
Right.
it's wise to diversify.
Don't
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
put all your eggs in one basket.
Spread your investments across different assets,
Right.
both digital and traditional.
Exactly.
That's sound advice.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot of the same principles from traditional finance
I think so.
still apply in the world of Bitcoin.
They do.
Risk management, diversification, informed decision-making.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how this deep dive has not only demystified Bitcoin,
Yeah.
but also highlighted the importance of financial literacy.
Right.
Bitcoin is a powerful tool,
It is.
but you need knowledge and awareness to use it effectively.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this exploration of Bitcoin,
Right.
what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Bitcoin and blockchain technology
Yeah.
represent a fundamental shift
Okay.
in how we think about money, finance, and trust.
It's a movement that's still in its early stages.
Very early stages.
And the future is full of possibilities.
Limitless possibility.
It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new financial era.
I think so.
And while there are certainly risks and challenges involved,
Sure.
it's also an incredibly exciting time
It is.
to be alive and witness this transformation firsthand.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great having you.
Thanks for having me.
To all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep learning, and as always, keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep.